Alright, so welcome back. In the last video we talked about polar coordinates UVs and how to query textures with them and mess around with the UV by adding time and manipulating how we query the texture. Now we're going to push this idea a bit forward, and as mentioned, I love to create kind of mask to play around with colors and create like patterns or 2D patterns, or like a lot of my friends they DJ a lot, and sometimes when we are doing parties at home, I'll just plug the projector and like project some live shader stuff, and now after that I'm going to show you how to make it interact with another channel that is actually either a song from SoundCloud, or it could be your live music, or if you have like a I don't know, Ableton set, you could shoot that to, like, creativity is quite infinite at this point. But before going into the music stuff, or music or sound stuff, let's just go back to the polar UV we were defining and query this texture. So I'm going to create a vector that I'm going to call texture mask or whatever. Like texture sampling. I'm so bad at defining variable names. So once again, I'm going to pass my I channel 0, and for the UV, I'm going to pass my polar UV, right? And assign it to RG and B. And here I'm going to say that my out color is that one. So it's very boring, but we can actually make it move. So to make it move, what we'll do is, well, we could add time to it. So if I subtract I time, you're going to see that it's going to always query and create kind of zoom out effect, because we remove time from the polar UV we define. And if we add time, it's kind of doing the invert and it's going inward. So I kind of love this idea of going inwards, but I prefer backwards for this idea. But anyways, so if you multiply, then you will have like this kind of repeating patterns that could be interesting, but we're not going to focus on that for now. Or you could actually divide to, that would create a kind of a woo, and you could mess around, with fract and kind of shoot how you modulate the time to create those effects. But for now, let's focus back on these kind of zoom out effect, or like it's pushing towards you. So the time is like a linear value. So if we multiply by 0.5, it's gonna go a bit like slower. And now what I will do is basically show you this idea of a mask that we were discussing about earlier. So I have the texture sampling in here. That is just that. It's just the thing which we have just done. And what I will do is, well, create a default color and create a constant color and subtract these values from the original color, and it's gonna put like the background to whatever, like for black in these instance. So I'm just going to create a new, I'm going to say masked value, and I'm just going to say that my kind of default color is going to be, we can say 1.1, like 111 for now, but you really need to play a bit around to get interesting result. But And now what I'm going to do is to remove from this white these color. So col, right? And now if I shoot my masked value as my output, right, we kind of see that it's not really creating what we were expecting to. So if I put a bit more red or a bit less blue, you know, we start to see what we were talking about by creating a constant color and removing the color. But now let's crank a bit the color. So if I multiply by 2.5, now we kind of see that, oh, the background is starting to get darker. And the reason why is because we increase this value to be higher from the range of 0 to 1. So it's now between 0 and 2.5. So if we negate whatever value, like if and this one is now getting negative value. So in black, it's not 0, but it's actually lower than 0 because of multiply. So if we crank it, that's a bit too intense, but you know, you can create, you can kind of add more, and it's gonna. So the higher you crank this number, the higher the basically the thing you're subtracting from your color constant is going to be, and therefore the blacker is going to be. So that's a bit what I wanted to cover. and this creates like a, you can always have, you know, fun, or you could go plus, and that would definitely not work. But if instead you divide by this guy here, now, oh, I'm not sure you see it well, but let's good. And now if we put like different type of like different texture would give us different patterns, because each different texture has different RGB. So I guess it's a neat little ways to create ideas. I personally love the abstract tree. I think it creates some very neat effects. And remember that everything is driven by these texture sampling or this polar UV. So you could actually change the speed here and say, oh, that's very too quick, or 1.5, or you could actually make something dynamic, like multiply time by the sine of I time. And ooh, Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. Multiply, sorry, there we go. We can make dynamic. So now if I go with high time here, so now it's gonna create like a, yeah, that's a bit too much, maybe just add. And now it's going to create like a more kind of dynamic stuff, because we change how we query the texture. So we negate the time, but we also have add a value between -1 and 1 to time. So yeah, I mean, at this point, I guess just have fun, play around the code, and with only a few lines, you can get some pretty interesting results. Hope you like it. See you in the next one.